Welcome to another Chef Look Cooks, part of our My Favorite series. If you were here last month, we had a fun little sweet treat. We did chocolate waffles, waffles being one of my absolute favorite things to eat. Dinner, breakfast, lunch, doesn't matter. I will put a waffle in my waffle press no matter what's inside of it. So we did chocolate waffles and a raspberry mousse, which is something I just learned how to make but have loved my entire life. This month we're doing my top two, which are going to be Reuban's and Meatloaf. Not in that order, it's actually the opposite. I've eaten meatloafs my entire life. My dad was big into making them, and one of my favorite things about them is that you can put pretty much anything inside of them and it's going to turn out pretty good. You don't even need meat. You can use things like beans or legumes or lentils, and you just need a binder basically. Binder, protein, cheese if you want it, veggies if you want it, basically anything you want. You mix it all together, you bake it, you get a nice little loaf that you can slice up, make sandwiches out of. You can just eat it for breakfast. It's really good with like a fried egg on top, one of my favorite ways for meatloaf. And then Reuban's are just kind of one of my favorite sandwiches, that's salty, sour, and then the Swiss cheese specifically really brings it all together for me. So we're gonna really shove them all together. I've actually done a little bit of each of these recipes before in the past. If you guys have been watching and hanging out, you've seen me. I've done a Reuban, I did a corned beef meatball with Colcannon before. That was back when I was cooking at home. So that's on YouTube if you want to check that out, just to see sort of the difference. And I've done a Reuban meatloaf before for my birthday last year, where I then sandwiched it between rye waffles that were turned into rye grilled cheese waffles, and it was, it's really good. This is going to still be good, but it's not going to be maybe quite that good. So we're kind of shoving these together. We're going to do a full loaf pan meatloaf, and then we're also going to make that Colcannon recipe again. And then just because I felt like it, we're going to use some like really simple, just like canned onion soup. You can obviously use better soup if you want to, and we're going to use that to just make a little gravy to put on top of the mashed potatoes and meatloaf. So without further ado, I'm just going to jump right in, try and get these meatloaves in the oven. I have my oven already preheated to 400. I'm just going to get my meat, which I have in the fridge. I am lucky enough to own a grinder, a meat grinder, and so last night I ground up a 2-pound loaf of corned beef, which is great. If you don't have a grinder, you can do this in a food processor just fine. I mean, if you really want to, you could also just chop it on a cutting board if you feel like you need to. Or if you are friends with your local butcher, you could probably hand them a piece of, and just be like, hey, grind this for me in store. You're not gonna likely get that service at Stop and Shop, but if you had to like Reliable, for instance, they're usually pretty receptive. If they have a thawed piece of corned beef, I can't imagine they won't grind it up for you. So I'm just gonna put that in there. That is 2 pounds, like I was saying. So the recipe calls for 1 pound, but we're doubling it because I got some people to feed and I wanna make sure there's leftovers today. I did get a 3-pound piece of meat here for actual ground beef, and I'm gonna put that all in there as well. It's fairly high fat just because that's what's cheapest right now. I was really hoping something would be on sale, but it wasn't. So a lot of that fat is gonna cook off. So we'll probably end up with like 2.5 pounds realistically. I usually make this with venison or a leaner meat. So 2 pounds is like what you want to hit. But if you've got a fattier meat, it's okay to sort of add a little bit extra. What will happen is that the bread will absorb that and we'll be in a good spot. So awesome, we got both our meats in there. We're gonna go in to our sauerkraut. This is a pound of sauerkraut. One of the fun sort of measuring mnemonics that I always remember is a pint is a pound the world around. So a pint, which is 2 cups, is going to be a pound, which is what this is, which means we don't need to measure this. We can just put it right in there. I am going to put the liquid in as well, because again, that bread is going to be in here as a binder. It's going to absorb that juice. It's going to really help us to get a really juicy one. This is maybe a little juicier than I was anticipating. So I'm going to pour off just a tiny bit, but I'm not worried about getting this like super dry. Like I'm okay that there's a bit of liquid in there. And that's just going to depend on what brand you get. You know, some canned ones are going to be really, really thick. This bagged one tends to have a good amount of juice in there. Oh yeah, my Swiss cheese, that's in the fridge as well. So I got some block Swiss cheese. There used to be a time, I swear, where they had pre-shredded Swiss, and I was going to use that just for ease of use, but nothing wrong with getting block cheese. You're always going to save money if you get block cheese. There's this guy, this chef who I follow on your social media who always is cooking like budget meals. He's trying to like cook as cheap as possible, and we're talking like $10 for a meal for like, you know, a couple people. And he's always yelling, literally yelling about getting block cheese and how much money it can save you. And got a little grinder. This is the Alley grater. Just want to show that off. My partner's name is Alexandra, and so this was a lovely birthday present that I brought in from home. So we're just going to grate this up, and I'll save my grater for later because we are going to grate some carrots as well. So I like Swiss cheese because we're doing a Reuban in this situation, but meatloafs don't need cheese. They can pretty much work with only eggs as binder. Even honestly, like you're usually using meat, which is a pretty good binder in itself. A binder is sort of a term that we use culinarily as like, I mean, it does what it says it's going to do. It binds things together. So usually it's protein or some form of protein. The pretty standard one is going to be eggs. When you're getting into like vegan cooking, people start incorporating things like flaxseed or starches to work as binders as well. Starches don't always work great. They need a certain amount of heat, and they also need liquid to go with them. Whereas a lot of protein binders come with their own liquid, whether that be fat or water in the case of eggs, although there's fat in the egg as well with the yolk. So binders are really important for getting things to stick. There's also people will use binders in like barbecue and grilling. You use like mustard or something on the outside of the meat, and that's more to get spices to stick to the meat as opposed to getting that meat to stick together. But generally when you hear the word binder, you should think sticky and things sort of getting stuck together. That's what you want it for. For me, a lot of times, I'll throw a little bit of potato starch or tapioca starch in with my potatoes just to give it some extra starch when I'm making like gnocchi or something like that. And a lot, you don't need eggs in a gnocchi recipe, but I personally like to do it. They get a really just kind of nice texture from that, and a little extra protein as well. So these are 1 pound blocks of Swiss. It is calling for 3/4 cups of Swiss cheese, but I'm probably going to use 1.5 of these blocks just because I really like Swiss cheese. So it would normally be a 1.5 cups. With solid stuff like this, the pint and pound doesn't always really work out exactly, but you can assume this is going to be about 1.5 cups, I would say, just sort of looking at it. That is like pretty solid. So I might even just use up both of these. We're going to see how it looks once I finish grating this, but I will grate it all and at least just put it on the side if you guys want to sort of put a little bit on top. Yeah.
Can you make a burger and you put a binder in it?
You can, but I don't often. For me, usually, instead of binding, because the protein itself is a good binder, what I'll do with burgers is I'll patty them out. I'll sort of like slap them between my hands a couple times, and that sort of gets the all of the proteins in that. There's a word for it, but they kind of get like tacky, sticky, and that will then make them stick a lot better together when you put them on the grill. You don't get that like weird like cut edge. It's actually that exact sort of tackiness is one of the reasons why you don't usually want to mix your meatloaf too much because you're putting extra binders in here. If you start mixing it a lot, the meat will get a little bit tougher because it will try and act as a binder as well because you've overworked it. It's usually not a problem. One of the good things about meatloaf is you're putting a lot of extra stuff in there that's not meat, and so if the meat's tough, you probably won't be able to tell. It's actually a really good way to use tough cuts of meat as well, because not only are you grinding them up, but even if like some of the connective tissues and stuff get ground up in there, their sort of parts per the whole is not going to be enough that you're really going to notice them and be turned off by that. So I don't know if you guys ever do this. I don't know if you're noticing, but I keep turning the cheese as I go. My hands are warm, and so like the warm part of the cheese will get a little bit softer, and as I'm going, it starts to squish. So I'll just put that warm part right to the grinder, and then it won't just like turn into a squishy mess. But for a long time, I hated shredding cheese. Absolutely hated shredding cheese, and I'd always like try and get somebody else to do it. But I kind of like it now. I don't know what it is that's changed about me, but that like the process is just more fun. All right, so let's see what this looks like once I put it in here. That's a pretty good amount of meat. What do you guys think? Should I put all the cheese in?
Yes.
All right, cool, good. As long as nobody said no, we were gonna make that happen. All right, let's just take a quick peek at the recipe. I got the rye bread here that I'm about to put in. We got corned beef in, we got ground beef in, we got shredded Swiss cheese, we have sauerkraut. We're gonna need some shallots and eggs. So let's go ahead and get those done before I crumble up this bread. Hello, welcome. So shallots are absolutely delicious. I really like them for this. You could just use an onion though, like it's not gonna hurt anything if you just use an onion. But I really like shallots for this because we are putting them in raw. Sometimes when I'm doing a meatloaf, I'll put my onions in cooked, like a caramelized, or I'll caramelize them a little bit to add some extra flavor and then put them in. You want to make sure they're cool when that happens. You generally don't want anything hot in with the raw meat if you can help it. And I like that for adding flavor, but for this I actually want this for a little bit of texture. And then I do want the flavor of shallot, which is a little bit sweeter. So adding shallots is a little bit more expensive, but it's kind of like a hack if you don't feel like sweating down and caramelizing onions, because these do have a lot more sweetness to them, and the flavor is really intense, so you don't have to use quite as much. And then for me, every single meatloaf I had when I was a kid had onions in it, so I just can't imagine meatloaf without that little tiny bit of translucent onion just peeking out of the side. So I guess for me it's kind of nostalgia, but you could totally skip this step if you don't feel like chopping onions. Meatloaf is, for me at least, supposed to be easy. You get meat on sale or something like that, you grab some old bread that was crumbly on the counter that you're not going to eat anymore. Maybe it's like leftover bagels even or something. I put so many crazy things in meatloaf. But the idea is that you should be able to just sort of grab what's around your house, as long as you have some sort of meat around, ground preferably. You can just kind of make a whole sort of mix, throw it in a pan, bake it up, and then eat it. And if you happen to have the right things around your house, you can actually sort of make something that's got a really nice flavor profile. But sometimes you just make things that are kind of cursed. For me, I one time didn't have any bread, but I really wanted meatloaf. And so I used old pancakes that were left over from the day before, which isn't so bad. Pancakes aren't, they're a little sweet. It's not that big of a deal, but I was kind of unlucky that they were blueberry pancakes. And so, I luckily really like sweet and savory combos, so it actually worked out absolutely perfect for me. I ended up putting, I think, a little bit of ricotta cheese in there instead of a shredded cheese that would normally melt. And I kind of leaned into the sweeter part of it. I glazed it with a really nice, I think it was Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce. And I baked it and I ate the entire thing. And it was delicious. But yeah, so you can use anything. We're using rye bread with caraway in it because we have a theme and we want to hit that theme. And I was lucky enough to be able to go to the grocery store and buy what I wanted today. But if you don't, that's kind of the beauty of meatloaf. It is adaptable. You will almost never eat the same one twice. Even this meatloaf, if you follow the recipe, I hope at least it turns out a little bit differently for you. That's kind of the fun of meatloaf and cooking in general. But I think meatloaf really kind of takes all the best parts of cooking and just puts it in one place. That ability to sort of adjust to what you want and what you need, and just that infinite experimentability. So I'm trying to get that out of your way so you guys can kind of see. I'm going to try and cut these pretty small because I don't want too big of pieces. But my dad, when he made meatloaf, definitely had pretty big pieces of onion in there, and it's totally fine if you want to do that. But for shallots, I really like a smaller dice. And it's nice because I can show you guys my technique for this would be called a brunoise. Is that what it is? Now I can't remember if that's right or not. It's been too long, guys. I've been out of the game for a really long time now. I'm forgetting all my fancy French terms. And so, I think that's right. Yeah. Cool. So I am, right now I'm just cutting the onions sort of down lengthwise. What that's going to do is make sure that when I cut this small, I don't get that weird bent bit at the edge. If I just cut straight down here and then try to dice them, I'd have these weird little pieces that are just bigger than I want them to be. Let's get rid of him. So what you want to do is you want to cut down first. Oh wait, sorry. Cut this way first. Guys, I'm getting rusty. What's happening here? I did get quite a lot of sun the other day. So you want to cut this way first, and then you want to cut down, and that will leave you with your nice sort of sticks that you want to get for your dice. And so we're just going to do that real quick. This one doesn't have too much of a side. And anytime you're cutting like this, where you're cutting sort of laterally and things can slip, you want to keep your hands sort of as bent as possible. So if something goes wrong, there's nothing I can cut. If I hit myself over here, then I did something really, really wrong. But in general, keeping your soft bits out of the way is going to make your life a lot better in the long run. All right, great. So we got all those side cut. Now we're just going to come in from the top and cut them into little sticks. And then from there, we'll dice them and toss them in the meatloaf. This is going to be so good, guys. I'm So whenever I make meatloaf at home, I always save a little bit and then like cook up a little patty just to try before it's done, mainly because I'm impatient. And I guess like if I was a little less sort of adventurous with my cooking, I might cook it before I put the meatloaf in the oven, but for me it's always like after. I kind of like the idea that my meatloaf might not turn out the way I expect it to. It's always like a learning experience. It's been a long time since I've made food that was inedible, though there was a period of my life where I had a pretty bad habit of over seasoning or just doing things that don't make any absolute sense. There's a very particular moment I remember in my childhood. I made this sort of like chopped meat slurry thing. You think like sloppy joes, but absolutely twisted. And I was eating it with some bread, and it was so bad. It was really salty, and I put too much mustard in there, and I think I like accidentally cracked like half a thing of black pepper in there. And I just was sitting there like, I can't throw this away. So in my infinite wisdom, I just grabbed a giant jug of ketchup and just squirted like a cup in there and mixed it up, and it tasted better at least. I was able to get through it, but that's probably the last time I can think of where I made something that I was just ultimately atrocious. And I think that was a learning lesson that day. That was sort of when I said to myself, all right, if you mess something up, you got to eat it, you got to learn from it, you got to figure out what you did wrong and get better. And lucky for me, that day I really learned my lesson. So, you know, seasoning can be a sort of dangerous task. Everybody has different flavors that they really like. Some people can handle salt, some people can't. I'm happy to be back on the salt train. I know for those of you who've been around for a while, there was a while there where I was completely off entirely. But I found, you know, potassium salt, which is a really kind of fun substitute, and it's been sort of great for my seasoning game. I've been able to sort of really just salt things to where I like them to be, at least. But even salt's not a necessary seasoning. You know, a lot of people just can't have it. So being able to work around that can be sort of tricky. You'll notice when we start to season this, I'm probably not going to put very much salt in the meatloaf itself. We're using corned beef, which is incredibly salty to begin with. We've got Swiss cheese in there, which is also fairly salty, and sauerkraut. So we're already kind of seasoned our meat without having to do much. I'm going to measure this one just because I really don't want to have too much onion in here. Not that that's probably possible, but so let's see. It was a 1/4 cup. That's a whole cup. We'll go a little bit less. Perfect. I'll put that aside for now. If you guys want to put some on top, we can. I'll take a look too once we mix it up and see if we want to put any more in there. All right, so we got shallot, we got sauerkraut, we got Swiss cheese, beef. We've got eggs are the next. I'm gonna put 3 eggs in here just because I do have the 3 pounds of meat, and I want to make sure that this thing is nice and bound up. But 2 eggs would be perfectly fine. In fact, no eggs would be perfectly fine. This meat is going to be all we really need for a binder, but I just like eggs in my meatloaf. It gives it kind of a little bit more firm texture, and when it's cold the next day and you're like frying it in a pan or something like that, it helps it to get really, really crispy. That extra protein is big for that. So awesome. I'm going to put a little bit of black pepper in here just for some extra seasoning. Oh, that's right, I forgot this thing does not. 10 minutes later. Well, we'll put. It looked like I put black pepper in there. It'll be fine. And I'm not going to bother salting it. Like I said, I think this is going to be in really good shape. So now we're just going to kind of eyeball this. It says a cup of rye bread, which if you're doing this at home and you're worried about ratios, follow the recipe. You're going to end up with a good dish. But we're going to eyeball it because I got a whole bunch of bread. Oh, it smells really good. So this is just rye bread. I just got it. It's basic stuff, but I wanted to make sure I had the stuff that had caraway seeds in it. So we're going for a Reuban, and for me, when I think Reuban, I think crispy, buttery, grilled rye bread. I think that flavor of caraway. I think Swiss cheese. That smell of Swiss cheese when it's melted. That like is for me at least transformative. And then I think of sauerkraut. Russian dressing or Thousand Island, debatable. They're not always on the sandwich. I personally really like them. We're not actually dealing with that today. If you feel up for it when you're making this at home, definitely use some Thousand Island as like a glaze on top of the meatloaf. But the way I'm going to be serving this with the Colcannon and the gravy, I thought the glaze would actually just get in the way. So I skipped that entirely, but definitely worthwhile for putting in here. So when I think about that, caraway, rye are just like things that scream in my mind as big flavors. So if you don't like caraway, you can just get rye bread that doesn't have it in it. Usually a marble rye won't have caraway in it. But for me, caraway is just like I just absolutely love it. So you can process this in a food processor if you want to, but I've taken, especially recently, to really liking to just break it up with my hands. You get kind of bigger chunks, which can be nice and fun. I think they absorb a little bit better some of the fat and such. When I was younger and when my dad made this, he'd always use the canned breadcrumbs, which are basically like powder. And they make for a really good meatloaf. But the texture is very different. I like having this sort of the bread break it up a little bit. And I particularly like them with this meat that we're using today because it's going to absorb the fat and the liquid from the sauerkraut and really almost make themselves really tasty. When you get that like little bit of chunk of bread later and it tastes absolutely amazing, and it's not just like this sort of homogeneous meat log, I hope that you'll be like, oh yeah, see, I see what he was talking about. And it's just little pieces like that. It's not going to be crazy. When we mix this, it's going to break up more too. I'm just going to get this as small as possible.
About how many slices did you use?
So far I've got 3 in there. I'll probably use at least another 3. I probably should have done this a little bit earlier, but you want it to be the same amount as your meat, basically, like mass-wise. So when you have the bread next to your meat, you want about a 50-50 ratio. Yeah, because then you'll have the 50-50 with the meat, and then on top of that you'll have another like part that is the cheese and the sauerkraut and the onions and whatever else you're putting in there. All right, come on, let's get this going. So this is my first time using the oven at the library. I mean, I've used the oven obviously here. I cook like chicken nuggets for kids and stuff when I do D&D programs, but Dungeons and Dragons, that's what I said, by the way, just in case anybody missed that. And so I've never cooked anything. I've only like heated up things. So this is going to be interesting. I'm really excited. I'm hoping that the timing works out perfectly. We're going to make a whole bunch of little meatloaves so that they cook a lot faster. But meatloaf can be a bit time consuming. If you make like a big pan, when we were younger, we'd always make like big 8 by 12 pans of meatloaf, and it takes like almost an hour and a half to cook. We're hoping to hit 20 minutes for ours. So I think I ended up with 7 pieces of bread total. I think I'm gonna call it there. I don't want to be too bready, but I do want that rye flavor to come through. I want that caraway. Like I want there to be a moment where you're biting into something and you break that caraway seed and it sort of, it sort of explodes in its flavor. So I've got to have just enough bread to make that happen without essentially just making bread loaf, which to be honest, it's delicious. I actually was looking at, like, if you don't have meat at all, just break up a bunch of bread with eggs and cheese and veggies and put it in a pan. It's going to be great. Repurposing bread to make more starchy things is honestly really amazing. Panzanella is one of my favorite salads. Like absolutely love like a good like crispy breaded crouton that's then mixed with like tomatoes and balsamic and raw onions. It's just, they're so tasty. But also on top of that, there's this really cool pasta that I keep seeing all over the place, which means I need to make it now. That's literally just blended up bread with like water and eggs. Like you use bread instead of flour to make the pasta. It feels crazy and I love it. It's right up my alley. But it's like a drop, not a drop biscuit, but it's like a Spätzle or Spätzle, which is like a German dumpling where you like put it through a potato ricer into the water. So it makes these little like noodles that are actually dumplings, and I'm so excited to try it. All right, so I feel like that's probably enough bread. So let's go ahead and give it a mix and see what she looks like, and then we'll go from there. But I think this is going to be perfect. So again, we don't want to mix this too much, but we also don't want big chunks of meat with nothing in between them. So I really want to make sure I just sort of squeeze it together, get it nice and mixed up. This is looking to be really good, guys. Plenty of cheese in there. That's what we wanted. I really want this to feel like an entire Reuben all in one slice, and I think we're gonna have it. And just if I see any pieces of bread, I'll just sort of break them up a little bit, but I'm not too worried about it because we're going to slice this. It's any big pieces of bread are likely to get cut again later. Yeah, that looks almost perfect. So just sort of take a little patty and just sort of see that it'll stick together. Okay, that looks good. If you can make a burger with it basically, and you feel like this will be burger, that's going to also be a good meatloaf. If I was at home right now, I'd be cooking this up in the pan right now. But we're going to go ahead and fill up our pans, get them in the oven, and jump on to the next part of our meal here. Bring this big piece up. That should be good. All right. So I got 6 pans. I'm hoping, I'm just gonna try and go even between these all and see where we end up. Again, I don't want these to take too long, so that's why I'm splitting it up so much. I think this could probably fit into 3 of these, but we're gonna see what happens. So I'm just spraying them, even though there's plenty of fat in there, just because I really am gonna want a nice release later. I'm hoping that I'll be able to take these out, give them some time to cool. We'll be able to pop them out of the pan and cut them up nice for you guys also. All right, let's see. We're thinking 6, so we'll cut that almost like a little pizza, and then we'll just we're just testing size right now, so I'm just sort of grabbing randomly, and I'm not really going to form them yet. I'm just trying to make sure that this is the right amount of mass for each one of these. All right, so that is there. I used to cook the breads at Morning Glory, zucchini bread, pumpkin bread, banana bread, all those things. And one of the things we used to do when we were done with our massive batches, we had this little bowl that we used to measure, and it would just be sitting there in the middle of the night, like scoop, 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 you know, over and over again. So this is like the exact same vibe, and you always had to come back at the end and like make sure they're all, you know, on top of each other. This is night baking, so there's a very distinct moment I remember at like 4 in the morning where I'm scooping my breads, and I just like don't know what exactly happened, but I just woke up and my hand was just in the loaf, just like covered with dough. You know, cooking at 4 a.m., man, you're gonna be tired sometimes. That definitely woke me up though. So we're just gonna go ahead and squeeze these in here. I'm going for flat tops here. I really want, you know, you can do a nice mounded top if you're gonna be serving this on your own. But for here, where I'm trying to portion it for a bunch of people, I want to make sure that it's nice and flat on top so that it'll be easier for me to cut it and make sure everybody gets the same amount. And so, you know, at home with your friends, you don't really have to worry about that. People will cut slices the size they want. But for me here, this is just going to make my life easier. I kind of like the geometric nature of it as well. A little bit in there. It's looking pretty good though. Perfect. And if you have like anything flat, like a masher or anything, that would also work great. Just trying to get air bubbles out of here. I don't want any air in the bottom of the pan. It could make it like sort of heave over the side if it gets too hot and makes like a hot air bubble. So, but at the end of the day, you're not gonna hurt anybody. If you have a weird misshapen loaf, it's still gonna be delicious. So that's all that really matters. Okay, perfect. Awesome. Let's get them in the oven. We're gonna have that at 420 or 400. Sorry. My oven at home doesn't work right, so I always cook at 420 when I'm trying to cook for 400. And luckily it's getting fixed soon, so that's nice. For those of you who have been with me when I was cooking back at home, you know that my stovetop is absolutely wild. I have a new oven on the way. It's gonna be insane. I probably won't cook at home again unless like I'm sick or something, so you might not ever actually see that oven, but you won't even notice because it's this exact same stove. Sometimes it's fun, you know, with like some companies, they'll just make the same thing over and over again because it works really well, which is exactly what happened here. So I'm just gonna do a quick little, I got these little sanitizer wipes. Everything we're cooking today is getting cooked. We're not doing anything raw, but with raw meat, it's always just a good idea just to do the best you can to keep, you know, things sanitary and clean. So that's just what I'm doing here. Perfect. Let's go ahead and get these shallots to the side. So I just bought too many shallots is what happened here, which is unfortunate, but that's okay. What I'll do is I'll mix these with a little bit of vinegar and some black pepper, and then we'll put it in the fridge and let it just pickle for the next month, and we'll bring it out when we have oysters this summer. So that would be just like a mignonette, which is a very, very tasty sort of oyster accoutrement. So let's get our potatoes going so we can be ready to make mashed potatoes when those that's hot. So I have a bunch of potatoes, like tons. I'm not going to fill this pot, but when I'm done, my hope is that we're going to have about like that much mashed potatoes, right? Because I'm feeding everybody here, so we got to get a bunch of mashed potatoes. So I'm going to fill that pot almost to the top with these potatoes. I got they're on sale. I got yellow potatoes, which are also known as what are they called? Now I can't remember their name. Golden potatoes. Yukon Golds, there we go. They're really creamy, which is good for this particularly. They've got almost like a buttery flavor to them by themselves. The Colcannon, which you can see by the recipe, has a lot of butter and cream in it. I oftentimes will skip out on luxuries like that when I'm cooking, but Colcannon is not a dish that's meant to be had like, it's not like mashed potatoes where you have a nice big piece. It's meant to be a rich, almost sauce to go with your dish. Because we're not just seasoning the potatoes, we're seasoning the carrots and the cabbage as well. It's kind of a meal in all, big meal all in one. I keep turning it hot. All right, so I'm just giving these a quick little rinse. So I'm gonna put the smaller potatoes that are about that size just in there whole, and the other ones I'm gonna cut in half. And I'm not peeling these. I really like skinned, especially for Colcannon, where we are not, like we're putting a bunch of other fibrous things in there. We don't really have to worry about the skin, messing up the mix. It's actually just going to add some texture into this dish that's already going to have a lot of texture. So, if I was making like a really nice fancy mashed potato that I was maybe like passing through a fine mesh sieve to make sure it was like the smoothest smooth possible. I'm obviously, not going to use skins, but try that filling. But for this is probably as rustic as you can get as far as mashed potatoes are concerned. Yeah. They're sticky. So skins are A-okay as far as I'm concerned. Oh, they're so sticky. Okay. Just gonna make sure there's no weird eyes. Oh. Try that again. Okay. Any like sort of weird bits like that you want to cut off. With potatoes, they're usually in pretty good shape, but the little black bits like that usually don't taste very good. They almost kind of taste like moldy, but it's just like, where the potato has started to go bad. It's fine. Awesome. We'll just keep going. I think we got a little more space in there. I want to have so much mashed potatoes at the end of this. The last thing I want to do is like not have enough mashed potatoes for you guys. So. Oops. Awesome. So I'm starting with cold water because I want these to cook evenly. With pasta and such and things, you usually heat your water up first before you throw your food in there. But for pasta specifically, that's because you usually want the core to actually be a little bit less cooked than the outside. So if you put cold food in hot water, it's going to start cooking immediately. It's going to cook from the outside in. As the inside is trying to come to temperature, the outside is going to immediately come to temperature and start cooking. When you put cold things in cold water and bring the whole thing up to temperature at the same time, that core of this potato is going to be about the same temperature as the outside as they all get to the same temperature at the same time. And that's what we want for mashed potatoes. We don't want like a hard core and a completely mushy outside. We want the whole thing to be just the right amount of mushy. And so that's what we're going for here. I'm hoping that this thing behaves well and gets me to a boil nice and fast. I got it on max, I got the lid on there, so I feel pretty good about it. I think we're going to be in a good place. Potatoes don't take too much time. But it'll be a good thing if the potatoes take a little bit longer than our meatloaf because, oh, that's right, I gotta set a timer. It's fine, we would have been fine. One of the things best things about cooking with an oven, especially when you're cooking meat or anything that's really heavily seasoned, is it starts to smell right about the time it's done. Once you can smell your food, it's probably almost done. Definitely worthwhile checking on it. So if you ever don't set a timer, just use your nose as a timer. So many times I'll be sitting on my couch, just hanging out, maybe playing on my phone, and I'll start to smell dinner. I'll be like, oh crap, I forgot a timer. But it works, my nose is incredibly strong, so it sort of works out. But I should probably put a timer on. So let's see, we'll start with 20 minutes for now. We'll check it after that. Okay, cool. Let me just wash my hands there. Whew. So now we're just going to get the ingredients for our Colcannon done and ready to go. So I've got cabbage and carrots. You might recognize these things: potatoes, cabbage, carrots. It looks like a classic New England sort of Irish dinner. I'm maybe a month late for this one. I probably should have done this one last month, but what are you going to do? It's actually funny. I tried to get corned beef last month, and they didn't have any. I don't know if you guys knew. They ran out really, really early. So I ended up having to wait, and I finally got some very recently, and it was not $8. I was like, wow, corned beef is actually kind of expensive when it's not the holidays. So keep that in mind. At least for me, that's in my mind now. When I see corned beef on sale, I'm going to buy 6 and put it in my freezer because I absolutely love corned beef. So we want about 2 carrots. These are kind of I would say this is about a medium carrot. A large carrot for me is one of those horse carrots that's big. So I'm gonna say this is maybe 1 carrot, this is 2 carrots, that's 3, and again we're doubling everything. So and this is gonna be 4. So we'll say that's about 4 carrots. And call it. And then it's gonna be, it was 2 small, 1 small head of cabbage. This is 1 big head of cabbage. They get bigger than this, but this feels about right. And it's dense too. This thing is heavy. So cabbage is not weird, but it's, it grows in layers, and so cabbages will have very much different densities. This is a classic green cabbage, but they're Savoy and Napa that are a lot lighter. They might be this size, but are going to have half as much weight. And so I probably should have put weight of cabbage in here. It might have been more helpful. I'd say this is about 5 pounds, maybe. Anyways, it's a big boy. And it might not look super big, but it's dense. It's really dense. So we're going to get quite a lot of cabbage out of that. So we're going to start by shredding our carrots. And I have a bowl here to put the carrots and cabbage in. We just want to get this all ready so when the potatoes are done, we're ready to immediately jump in there. Once these guys are cooked, we're going to drain them. We're going to immediately put butter in there and start cooking these down. So we want to have them ready so we're not wasting any time. This is one of the ways I just really like to cook. I like to try and make sure everything's done when the time comes to sort of put it all together. If you have a mandolin, you can definitely use those as well. When you shred carrots like this, they're not bad, but they're a little bit thinner than I usually like them, and they're also a little bit shorter. I'm not. Yep. I probably should wash these though, thank you. Yeah, I don't usually peel carrots, especially not these kind of not new age, but most of the carrots nowadays that you're getting commercially are these perfectly straight carrots, and they've already been run through a machine to clean them. There's not much left of that skin even. If you get a local carrot that's been grown here, you also should probably still keep the skin because it's going to have local probiotics from the soil, so it's not the end of the world. But the biggest thing you're worried about with skin on carrots is going to be dirt, and so as long as you know that they're clean, I like to keep the skin on everything. And a lot of you guys have heard me talk about this before, but skin is the skin of vegetables is power packed with all of the nutrients. It is the first guard against all of the elements for that vegetable, and so it's damaged. It's usually thicker than the rest of the vegetable, but what that thickness, what that damage means is that it's had more time put into it. It's had more growth period. It's had more nutrients sent to it from carrots are a root, so it's a little more awkward, but that skin it's the toughest part of that vegetable, and for vegetables the toughest part of them is also for us usually the most nutritious. It's the same way with potatoes as well. Potatoes are actually really, really healthy for you. They have tons of vitamins, but you have to eat the skin. If you don't eat the skin, they're just starch. And there's nothing in there but starch in the core, but the skin has a ton of things, potassium particularly. This potato right here probably has, if you ate the whole skin, has as much potassium as probably 2 bananas. One potato. But you have to eat the skin. So I'm a skin on everything type of person. When I was juicing back in the day, when I worked at Morning Glory, I'd leave the skin on like lemons even too. For juicing, it works out really well. You don't get too much of the nasty sort of pith. You just get all those lovely oils. But the skin from lemons, or zest is what we call it nowadays, is actually like, man, it's one of the best parts for me. I love zest. It's one of my favorite foods. And that may be a hint about what's happening next month. With summer coming up too, those like fresh, sort of like bright vibes that you get from zest is really just amazing. You know, like lemon juice is nice, but most juice from citrus is really tart. It doesn't have a lot of sweetness to it, but the zest does. The zest is like a little bit sweet. It's got that same lemon flavor, but it's sort of muted. It doesn't have the really like intense acidity that you get from juice. So zest is a really great way to sort of add flavor without necessarily being like aggressive. If I had to put the amount of lemon juice in a dish that I wanted to get a specific amount of flavor, I'd also have to contend with the fact that I'm putting that acid in there, which potentially means sweetening the dish. And if I don't want it to be sweet, maybe I want it to be really, really bitter, or just I don't want it to be sweet for a reason, I'm going to run into problems if I want that flavor. But if I put zest in there instead, I can work with that savory profile or that bitter profile without worrying about having acid get into the mix. Now that's not like something I'd likely do. I love mixing all my flavors together, so I'd probably just put the zest and the juice in there. But it's good to know that you like have that sort of availability. So I won't talk too much about zest now. I don't want to use all my good material. So. Nope. Love cucumber skin.
Even with the wax?
I do not buy waxed cucumbers. But yeah, if I bought a waxed cucumber, 100%. But yeah, waxed cucumbers to me is, I'm not going to eat cucumbers if I have to buy a waxed one. Not to say that it's that much better for myself or the world to buy the European seedless cucumbers that aren't waxed.
You don't peel them?
No. Those are wrapped in the plastic because they're not waxed. And they do that specifically so that you can eat the peel. They're designed to have a thinner peel. Them and the Persian cucumbers are bred to have a thinner peel so that you can eat the peel. And the big, like thick, like slicing cucumbers that you get, if you're getting them local, they won't have wax on them, which is great. They'll have like their natural, not wax, but like they have a natural coating that protects them. And if you get the wax ones, those ones are likely months old. That wax helps keep them alive and fresh. So if I see wax on a cucumber, that to me means that that's an old cucumber, which, if I have to, I'll eat it. But for me, that usually means I'm just going to skip cucumbers for the day. But man, I am excited for cucumber season. I'm excited for all the vegetable seasons that are coming up here. It's nice to be able to have food year-round like we do, but something special about getting that weird knobbly carrot that's like hugging its best friend neighbor, and it's just you feel different when you eat the food, at least in my opinion. I don't know if it's just psychosomatic or what, but when I eat food that I know where it came from, or if I'm lucky something I grew myself, it just hits different. All right, let's go, carrots. I'm speeding up here. So I actually have a box grater at home, but something happened to it. Somebody mistreated it, and all the little teeth here have been bent in. So when I go to like shred, it's very nice if I need like a really, really like fine shred, but it takes like an hour to do a block of cheese. Maybe that's why I hate doing cheese so much, is from that box grater. But I tried fixing it, but it was like insane. You were like going through there with a little screwdriver, just like wedging each one out. And I got about 3 holes in and was like, this is not worthwhile. I'm just going to use the alley grater for everything. So the alley grater is my new best friend. And if we were at home right now, I'd just be chomping these off, probably eating the root end too. Like I eat everything. This, the part of the greens, carrot greens are also something you can eat. You don't want to eat tons of them, and you usually want to cook them. Carrots are in that same family as Queen Anne's lace and what's the one that's bad for you? There's one that's bad for you. And so the greens can they're a little bit bitter, but they're really, really tasty if you blanch them. You can blend them up and make like gnocchi out of them or dumplings out of them. A lot like nettle. If you guys have ever eaten nettle before, you can do very similar things with that. You can make pasta out of it as well. It's really tasty. But I like to do that with my greens. If I have the time, I will say though, I'm definitely guilty of like getting my greens, chopping them off, telling myself, all right, I'm gonna cook these things, and then like a month later, I find them in the back of the fridge, and I'm like, uh-oh, what did I do? So, you know, best laid plans and such, but I do in general really, really try and love to use as much of the parts as possible. So as you can see, this cabbage is insanely dense, especially up towards the top here. It's a little looser here, which is not so bad. But we're gonna get a lot of this. Is like so, like it's just ready to explode. As soon as I start cutting this into it, it's just gonna poof out. So I cut it in half first. I want to get the core out so I can start cutting it. So I'm just gonna cut the core down the middle, and then kind of like an apple. I'm just gonna cut the core out. So I have just edible cabbage there. Some cabbages will be like, and this one is kind of like that. It'll have like really, really thick leaves at the base. And sometimes you want to cut more of that out, depending on what you're doing. Like if I was cooking a slaw right now, or not cooking, but if I was making a slaw, I might cut like even more of this out and use it for like a soup or something like that. But for this, it's fine. We want chunky, we want thick. Colcannon wants to be chewy, you know, not chewy, but it wants to have something that you're eating. It's not really about being smooth. So I'm okay with having some thicker pieces from the bottom here. Seems good. Okay, so so I just want these to be about the same size as the carrots. So I'm just looking at the length of that. I'm looking at the length of that. It looks like about 3 pieces, I'd say. So each one of these I'm going to cut into 3 smaller wedges. And then now that they're cut into wedges like that, if I'm lucky, I'll be able to flip them over and sort of cut them all at once. And we're just trying to go as thin as possible here. Again, I'm not super concerned with things being a little bit chunky. I just want to have them be fairly small and mouth-sized. I'm just trying to keep my fingers as curled back as possible. I'm using my thumb as a guide to sort of squish it all together so they don't go flying all over the place. And I'm just trying to keep my thumb behind my knuckles so that if I do slip, I take off probably some of the more least important parts of me. That's what knife work's all about. It's just about putting the least important things in the way. And then also not ever cutting them. But, just in case. I think this part of my hand is oftentimes a part that I'll end up getting. Just like randomly, it always seems to be sort of in the way. Haven't cut a tip off since I was a kid, so that's nice. That seems about right. I'll just load that all in here. And I'm kind of looking too about like, this is going to end up in this pot at the bottom. We're going to sweat it down with butter, but I don't want to go too much more than like, there's a line in here. I probably want to try and fill it to that. I think we're going to be good based on what we have here, but we'll take a peek. Yeah.
If you would be a turn and go with the coleslaw, what would you do?
Yeah, for me, me personally, or me if I'm feeding other people? Personally, if I'm turning this in the coleslaw, personally, I'm going to put raw red onion or shallot if I've got it, but probably raw red onion because as much as I use shallots here, I don't often use them at home that much, just because they're harder to like keep. Red onion will last for like months, but a shallot will usually go bad like a week or 2 out from when you buy it. They just like to sprout more because they're smaller. So for me, I would make a slaw mayo. I like to make my dressing beforehand instead of like dressing it in the pan. And for me, that's going to be mayonnaise, any kind you like. But I really like Duke's if you can get your hand on it. Hellmann's it's okay. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it's definitely not like my favorite. Duke's is a Southern mayo, and I'm absolutely in love with it. But Hellmann's works just fine in a pinch. We did just recently use, and I'm sorry, Mike's, but we used Mike's at Herb Foster's event a while back for the slaw mayo, and it's not that good. I'm sorry, Mike's, but it's not my favorite mayo. And I don't really like mayo like some people like mayo, but Mike's wasn't there for me. So for me, it's Hellman's or Duke's, and then I'll add to that apple cider vinegar, lemon juice, brown sugar, and a little bit of salt and pepper, and then whip that up until it gets nice and smooth. And then in the slaw, it can be literally anything, but for me, I like carrots, I like thin sliced red peppers, and I like red onions, and then mixed. I don't like celery in my coleslaw. I know, of course you love celery in your coleslaw. That's my mom, by the way, guys. When I was a kid, I ate a lot of raw celery only because of her. I think I like raw celery today, despite how much I ate it as a kid. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like salads, always there was raw celery in there. I just remember many, many memories of eating salad and just like getting to the end of the bowl and it's just like a pile of celery with dressing on it. Not because I like tried to leave it for last, but because it's hard to get that crunchy stuff when you're eating a salad, you know? Yeah.
I'm sorry, mayo, apple cider vinegar,
Lemon juice and brown sugar. A little salt and pepper. So that's going to be 3 parts mayo, 1 part brown sugar, 2 parts apple cider vinegar. No, that's not right. We just changed this. It's 3 parts mayo, and then 1 part of the others. 1 part brown sugar, 1 part lemon juice, 1 part apple cider vinegar. And then taste it. If you need more brown sugar because it's too acidic, do that. And that's going to depend on which mayo you use. Certain mayonnaises are sweeter than others or fattier than others. Like if you use like the extra heavy Hellman's, you might want more acid, for instance, because fat is like a pretty classic balance to that. You don't? Yeah, it's unfortunate. The internet, I mean, as much as I don't...
I saw it in Stop and Shop recently.
Did you really? Oh my gosh, amazing. Yeah, if you can get it, it's great. Try it once, you'll probably be a convert. I really just, it's a good mayo. I got into Duke's when I was living down in Asheville for a couple of years. And then when I came up here, we were able to get it through IFP, one of like the island food suppliers for restaurants. We just asked and they brought it in because some of the chefs I was working with are both from Texas and they were like, Duke's is the only mayonnaise. Like there is no other mayonnaise. So I may be a little bit biased about Duke's because of them. I do feel like whenever you're working in a professional setting like that, your boss, not like the owner, but your boss, like the chef, tends to like really influence the way you look at the world. You just spend so much time with them. It's working in a professional kitchen you see them more than your family most of the time. So you really kind of like become like them. And it's not the only thing that I think those head chefs sort of taught me. And I can't really. My flavor profile has like been forever altered towards like Asian flavors, ginger, garlic, and scallion. Because that's another option, honestly. If I wasn't going to make like a mayonnaise slaw for this, I would 100% do like a scallion, ginger, garlic, and scallion with some sesame oil and a little bit of soy sauce and rice wine vinegar. And I think that would be also equally as good. And the exact same contents too, like red onion or red peppers, red onion, carrots, and cabbage. So same things in the slaw, but totally different dressing. I'll put a little bit of like sesame seeds on top when you're done, and that's a winner as far as I'm concerned. But I love that type of like sesame dressing. If you guys are interested, I have a recipe on my old blog that I was doing during COVID, Trash Panda. So the website is Trash Panda EPL for Edgartown Public Library .wordpress.com, and this thing is like at this point almost 4 years old. But one of the recipes in there is, I think I just called it Best Damn Asian Sauce, or Best Damn, what did I call it? Anyways, it's Best Damn something. And it's essentially just like a sesame dressing. You guys have probably had something similar to it all over the place. It's like the classic dressing you'd put on like sesame noodles. It's rice wine vinegar, a little bit of brown sugar, or if you have a sweetened rice wine vinegar, you don't need the sugar. But I usually don't buy the sweetened rice vinegar anymore because I like to be able to season it myself. But that is what I was when I was younger working in kitchens. Seasoned rice vinegar was definitely what we had available. Just was sort of easier to work with for untrained prep cooks and stuff. But I really, really love that dressing, and that's good on everything. You can put that on like roasted green beans, or like if you pan fry some green beans and get them nice and crispy and like almost like blackened on some of the sides. You throw that in there when they're hot and it almost sort of glazes them. Really big fan of like a really good sesame dressing. So, all right, potatoes, come on. I almost was like I should do the potatoes first today. I was like, I should have convinced myself to do the potatoes first. Yeah. Alright, that's as hot as it goes. I might move these to the back just to get them going faster. I think this thing has a higher temp max, so we're gonna see what this thing does. I don't want to make you guys have to wait for mashed potatoes. We got other stuff to do though, so that's not a big problem yet, but I was hoping they'd be boiling by now. Oh, that's the meatloaf timer. Alright, let's see what these things look like. Oh, yeah. Hello. Oh, it's looking so good. Smelling so good too. You can smell the sauerkraut and the Swiss cheese. Swiss cheese just has such an amazing smell when it starts to melt. So I'm just temping these. You want to go up to 165 for ground beef, ground anything basically, and if you take that ground meat and then mix it. Alright, so we got a little bit longer, not too much longer though. Good, good, good. Pop that one back in there. We'll go 7 minutes, I think that'll be done. Alright, awesome. Okay, this thing's failing me today. Alright, let's get it on this back guy and go. And I think I might actually split it up into two just so we can get it cooking faster. Alright, you go to town. We're pivoting. So I'm just going to switch these. I'm going to put them into two different pots so they cook a little bit faster. I'm just pivoting because I guess I didn't do my timing right super well for today. We'll make it work though. We're going to make it work. One of the things when I'm planning these, I think about like the ratios and I think about cooking everything individually. And I usually think about how they go well together to sort of make a cohesive program. I'm happy to say this is the first time I think I've truly not done a great job at that. If I had put the potatoes on when we first started this and then made the meatloaf, I think we'd be in like a shiny position right now, but that's cool. This is not going to take too much longer.
Yeah.
Now we're talking. Alright, cool. We're back on track. No worries. It's actually good that I have two pots now because I think I might have too much carrots and cabbage. So we're gonna make that. It all worked out in the end, honestly. This is how I planned it. That's what we'll tell everybody later.
long as it tastes good, no matter.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a personal goal of mine, you know. When I'm doing this and I think about them in my head, I'm like, all right, cool. If I can get in under an hour, like I get like bonus points, you know. Back when I used to cook at home, yeah, thank you. Back when I used to cook at home, and Virginia would like be hosting and everything. At the end of the program, I'd always look at the clock and be like, did I make it? Did I make it? Because that program was billed as an hour-long program every single time, and I think I hit like 58 minutes like once. It's not my specialty, I will say. I don't really tend to be on time for most things as far as food is concerned, unless it is me going to eat, in which case I am always on time. All right, lovely. This is what we'll be using later. We've got butter and garlic. That's what we're going to start with when we go to get our Colcannon sweat down. Need a little bit of a whisk here. Perfect. So I'm just going to get my onion soup heated up and ready to be made into a gravy, so we're good to go on that. Usually with gravy, especially anything that you're thickening with cornstarch, you don't want to make it too early. If you thicken it early, that cornstarch will start to set, and then you can reheat it later to loosen it up, but it's never the same as when that first time when you make the gravy. So for me, I'm just going to get this hot so it's ready. So I actually haven't had, it smells okay, I haven't had Campbell's onion soup in like a long time. This is actually pretty nice. There's like a good amount of chunks in there. Good job, guys. So I think this is going to totally go over the top if I try and do it in two. They're incredibly salty. So I am going to do the mix with the water from the can. I might not use a full can, but I do want to sort of thin these out a little bit and then just try them. We're thinning them out so that we can thicken them up later, but we don't want them to be too salty. Salty gravy is not like the end of the world. Oops. Man, I'm making a mess today. I'm going to grab a whole nother. Salty gravy is not the end of the world. It is like meant to be a sauce, and so sauce is usually meant to be pretty intense and flavorful, so that you can flavor the things you're putting it on. But we're not putting on this like a bland roast. We're putting it on like a really nice flavored meatloaf and stuff. So we don't want it to be the only thing you can taste. We want this to be an accentuation, an accoutrement, not the main star. So I just want to taste it and make sure it's not too intense. If you don't have onion soup, or you just don't like onions for some reason, you can just use beef broth for this and make like a beef broth gravy. That'll be perfectly fine as well. Put a little Worcestershire sauce in there maybe, a couple things to give it some sort of extra flavor oomph. But onion soup is, for me, one of my absolute favorite things. I don't know, I'm not saying that you should go there or anything, but the News is, in my head is just one of those like great places as a kid where I would go and get to eat it. It's heating up. And it's just so classically delicious. You got that little bit of bread, that nice, melty cheese. So I really thought that for this dish especially, it would go really well, because that's kind of what we're doing right now. We've got, the bread in the meatloaf. We've got that nice melted cheese that's in the meatloaf as well. So I kind of felt like this would be like almost like its own little onion soup. And then gravy with mashed potatoes is just like, how can you not, right? But I really like onion soup. I think making gravy out of it is something I've only really started doing for myself fairly recently. I don't know why my brain never was just like, just thicken soup to make gravy. Like, how is that not a good idea? But I can think of like a couple other soups that I think, trying to think of something else that might be really good with this. You kind of already got that with like a cream of mushroom soup. That's basically what you're doing when you're making like green bean casserole, is you're using that cream of mushroom soup as like the gravy. Kind of comes like a gravy right out of the can. But I like the idea of like using nice flavorful foods as sort of altering them to make gravy or sauce or whatever you want to do. So for this, I was debating whether I was going to blend up the chunks, but I think I'm going to keep them. These seem to be like just the right size. It'd be nice to have a little bit of onion on it. I'm just testing this for salt right now. That should be good. Okay, cool. So we're just gonna put that up. I got a boil. There we go. Let's go. Whew. I was getting worried there for a second. I think we're gonna be perfect though on time. Oh yeah. So we got meatloafs out, guys. I'm just gonna give you a little peek there. Not too shabby. So I didn't glaze these at all, which is why you kind of got like the little like fatty pockets on top. That's all the fat from the meat rising up and bubbling up because it's nice and hot. Usually when you have a glaze, you'll get those little bubble holes within the glaze will sort of melt over the top and finish it up. So, you know, it's not gonna look perfect, but I'm hoping once these cool a little bit to pop them out on the pan, and so the bottom and the edges should be nice and crispy, and that'll be our display instead. But a glaze on that would cover that up no problem, but they look absolutely perfect and they smell really, really good. I'm gonna put that one there in the hopes that maybe some of the smell will sort of waft over to you guys. And I'm just gonna leave the other ones over here to cool. Let's take a peek at these taters now that we got a boil going. Let those guys go, let that all cool. All right, sweet. So these guys are starting to get hot. That's not what I wanted to see. Will this fit in there? You know what? I think it
Let's need to get it.
just This is so full. I can live with that. All right, great. So I'm gonna go ahead and start cooking this down while my potatoes boil, just to give us something to do. So normally I'd wait for the potatoes to be done and then I'd use the hot pan that we already had. But I don't want to make you guys have to wait for this food for too long. It's already starting to smell really good. The meatloaves are out, so they're going to be cool in maybe like 5-10 minutes anyways. So if I can get everything done in about 5-10 minutes, we're going to be rocking. So that's my plan right now. So just forge forward. So what I'll do is I'll get these cooked down, ready to go, and I'll be able to put them right back into that pan once I drain everything, and we'll be in a good spot in no time. So I'm using 2 full sticks of butter, which is kind of, I feel like I'm like breaking the rules, to be honest. I love butter, don't get me wrong. There was a period of my life where I avoided it, but I've been to my doctor and they said that whoops. This is my greasiest shirt and I still wear it every single time. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I tend to wear the same shirt every time. That's also actually thanks to Virginia. Virginia one time called me out on it. I hadn't even noticed I was doing it, but I was wearing like the same shirt just because of like laundry cycle, I guess. She's like, you always wear that shirt with the birds on it. That should just be your Chef LeCook shirt. And so it kind of is my Chef LeCook shirt now, but the problem is I do stuff like that and spill butter on myself. And so I have these little grease stains. I wash it pretty well, but sometimes you just can't get it out. All right, so we're gonna use a whole bunch of garlic here. This does come with water in it, so I'm just gonna drain that off. I don't want any water in here, just garlic. And I'd normally use just like bold garlic, but this is going to be a lot of garlic, so I didn't want to go too crazy. So I'm just draining it off. Let's see, what does this say? This says 45 teaspoons, so there's 3 teaspoons in a tablespoon, so that's 15 tablespoons, and we want 4 tablespoons doubled to 8, so we want about half of this. That seems about right. And then an extra one for good measure. just looking at them, they'll cook. So we're not really trying to brown this garlic, but we are going to try and get this butter fairly hot. Let that garlic sort of like fry in it a little bit before we start to put our veggies in there. This one. I did say brown in the recipe, but you're going to have a hard time with this particular garlic getting it very brown. There's too much water in it. If you're using the cloves that you like chopped yourself, it'll probably work a little bit better. But to get these brown, we'd have to cook the water out first. And at that point, we're not going to, I mean, it wouldn't be a bad thing, but it's not really necessary for this. Sorry, what was that?
This is easier to not burn.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. But we do want to make sure it gets a little bit of that flavor, that it really infuses that butter. Oh, it smells so good. Somebody was talking about roasted oysters earlier, and this would be a great base for that. We take those shallots from earlier, cook them down in here, and then take some breadcrumbs if you had, and just cook them into the butter. So you almost cook the breading beforehand. You get a nice like little sort of almost like dough, and then put a little bit on top of each one, and that butter will then melt out of the dough into the oyster and make like a really good baked oyster. So this would be a great way to start baked oysters as well. I'm just sitting here thinking about that smell. I'm like, why does this smell familiar? It's from oysters. I'm just looking for like the smallest amount of color in here, just to show me that it is cooking. I don't want raw. It's like a witch's brew back there. Everybody's gonna get really nice skin today, or at least I am. It's like, it's moist back here, I love it. One thing we don't have, unfortunately, is a hood vent, which is why I don't usually do tons of boiled things, but I just couldn't say no to some Colcannon and gravy today. Alright, cool, that's looking pretty good. There's a couple pieces in here that have started to get a little bit color, and they're feeling a lot softer as well, which is what we want. If I cook this too long too, I run the risk of actually browning the butter as well, which is not a bad thing. Brown butter is really, really delicious. It's just not what we want for today. Colcannon is definitely like a white dish. Like everything in it tends to sort of, we have carrots in here today, so that's going to sort of change the dynamic a little bit, but it is definitely like a paler dish. It's kind of designed to be, it's not very colorful. Make sure I get some of the carrots in there. And again, I'm just loading this in. We're really going to sweat it down. We're not really looking for any color at all. We just want this to be cooked. I'm going to salt this. That's going to help for the cabbage to start releasing its moisture. And the carrots, this is exactly what we want. And just remember too, I know that's looked like a lot of butter, and it was a lot of butter, but this is what we're using to flavor the potatoes as well. So it seems like a lot of butter, but at the end it's actually going to be not a huge amount. Oh yeah. One thing I like about dishes like this is that, like, as you go along, when I was making my chowder, I think I said this a couple times too, like, you could just stop right here and this is a meal. Like, cabbage and carrots and butter and garlic, like, we're done. Put this on some rice with like a nice grilled chicken breast or something, like, you don't need anything else. This is going to be really, really tasty on its own, but it's going to be even more tasty when we start adding that starch to the potatoes, and then the gravy that we've got going over here as well. So I like dishes that like are a sort of mix of individual masterpieces that then sort of come together to become, more and better than they were before. It's really nice too, because if you don't have a piece of that dish, you can still cook it. It's like, oh no, I don't have whatever X potatoes. It's like, okay, I can still make sort of Colcannon. Braised cabbage is also just one of my favorite things. From this point forward, you could add a couple more veggies in here, and then hit it with some like coconut milk and let it like braise in that. That would be really good. If you have curry paste, you could do that too to make almost like a Thai curry. I tend to use cabbage a lot to like bulk up my meals. You know, if I just don't have tons of veggies, I throw a head of cabbage in there, and it feels like you got tons of food. And the cabbage is, you know, it's a lot of water, but it's still pretty good for you. It's got a good amount of nutrients, good amount of flavor. For me, especially, cabbage has that like perfect amount of sweetness. Like if you chew it, it's almost like a cracker or something. Like it starts to turn to sugar in your mouth. Really love a good raw cabbage. Slaw. Doesn't have to be slaw. Honestly, just like thin sliced cabbage, a little bit of salt. That's, to me, like really, really tasty. I like using cabbage on sandwiches instead of like a Savoy. Works really, really good. That's like the wrinkly one. It's almost like a Napa, but it's round. Works really, really good for either like lettuce wraps instead of bread, or just as the lettuce on your sandwich. Kale works really great for that too. But alright, see, so this is the color we're looking for. It's going to cook down more, but I don't know if you guys can tell. Like you see them next to each other too. That's like bright white and bright orange, and this has sort of got this like muted color. The carrots have started to bleed a little bit into the cabbage, which is turning almost this little bit of yellow. That's what we're looking for. That's what we want to see. That means it's cooking down and getting nice and flavorful. Those flavors are mixing, and oh, it's going to be so good. It smells really, really good over here. I hope you guys can smell it. Like, I know you guys have a high ceiling, so I feel like a lot of times the smell just goes up instantly, and you guys don't get to really experience it. But
I had to walk up to the console. As soon as I opened the door, it came out.
it smells good. Okay, good, good, good. All right, see, good to know, good to know. It's about the experience, you know, like. All right, see, so that's cooked down a little bit. I'm just gonna keep loading stuff in. As soon as space becomes available, I just put a little bit more in there. And we're gonna cook this all long enough that it doesn't matter that I'm adding things in batches like that, in layers. Usually with greens, this is how I cook. You just sort of load the pan as much as you can, let it cook down, add some more. And then when the last batch is cooked, then you know it's all cooked. And you can keep going past that. Dark greens and cabbage tend to have like a lot of really good fiber holding them together. So you can cook them for ages and ages, and they'll still sort of keep their form, which can be a bit of a pain for people who like their food really well done. But for me, if you like that sort of al dente vibe, cabbage is like perfect for that. I really like doing just like whole wedges. You can like steam them and get them mostly cooked, and then grill them, or grill them and then steam them, kind of whichever way you want. I really like that like charred flavor, but then cooking them for a really, really long time in a braise with either some meat or just with some butter. You get that still nice, the charred flavor, because it's still on there. You know, like literally there'll be like burnt pieces of cabbage that are on the edges, but it gets really, really soft. And then you keep the core attached, so that core is going to be pretty much like always a little bit tough. And then you get back to, you know, you're eating in, you got all the beautiful leaves, you got this core left over. You can just slice it up. It's all like broccoli stem, if you guys like broccoli stem. Another great sort of use it all sort of addition there. Stems of broccoli are absolutely delicious. I really like shredding them up like we did with the cabbage, and like cooking them down, or using them to make a slaw. One of my favorite slaws is actually just made with broccoli. It's broccoli and raisins, and it's a very similar slaw mayo to what I told you guys earlier. And then you also put some red onions and toasted almonds in there with the thin sliced broccoli, but I'll also shred up the core when I'm doing this, and it always turns out really, really good. So I'm trying to get this this soup to boil like that and cook a little bit of the liquid off, and then we're going to thicken it up when it's ready to go. This is going to be so good. I'm just looking at what kind of, you know, I'm just going to cook it all, and then I'll put in what I think I need to put into the potatoes. But this might be too much cabbage and carrots too, which is fine. Just have some extras. Yeah, we'll put it all in there. It's gonna fit, guys, I promise. This is, I think, become a sort of a tradition of this show, is me cooking to the point where it's just like at the lip. I think it happened with the chowder a couple of weeks ago. We were just like full to the brim. That's okay, you develop techniques when you cook like this, which is how I cook a lot. Folding, you get really, really good at folding. when you cook like this because you really have to like be very, very gentle with your pans. So folding would be like coming in from the bottom and then flipping up to the top, or taking stuff from the top and sort of pushing it to the bottom. Of course, I'm actually absolutely killing all the heat that's in this pan right now, but that's okay. We'll let that sit for a bit. I'm gonna go check on our potatoes, which are boiling nice and good. Ooh, they're almost done. We did it, guys. Alright, those potatoes maybe have like 3 more minutes left and they're good to go. So we are getting close to completion here. I didn't know it was going to happen, guys. I got a little worried there for a second, I'm not going to lie.
The coleslaw recipes, if you make a potato salad, other than the fact that you're eating potatoes instead of cabbage, would you make it different?
Yeah, I probably wouldn't put as much sugar in there. I don't really like sugar with my potatoes as much. I shouldn't say that because everything will come out next month, but I don't usually like sweetness with my potatoes as much. I'm more of like, I like full savory. But with cabbage and carrots especially, that already has that sort of sweetness, I like to really accentuate that. So I like my mayo to be a little bit sweeter for that. But for a potato salad, I like just straight mayo, honestly. If I'm doing mayo, or if I'm not, I really like, without spoiling too much, I like a mustard and zesty.
Did you do the apple cider and the juice as well?
Mm-hmm. Oh man, it's good. I'm gonna put a little more salt in there. So I'm actually gonna put a lot of salt in here because I'm gonna be using this to season the potatoes as well. So I'm gonna over salt this in the hope that the potatoes come out perfect. Really buttery, amazing. You gotta go? Yeah. Hi, Mom. Oh, nice. Alright, cool. That should be good. And we'll take a taste test on when we're actually done with the Colcannon just to make sure, but I think that's going to be perfect. So one thing that I've really enjoyed about this last series is we've gotten to cook all of my favorite foods. But I'm really hoping that as we continue through doing this series, I've got some things I want to cook next fall. But I'm really hoping to work up, not a survey, but like some sort of form maybe that you guys can fill out online. I'd love to do a series about what you guys like to eat. Obviously some things just don't work here. You know, we've got to be able to cook for 30 people in an hour and a half-ish. So, you know, some things won't work out, but I really would love to be able to get some sort of funded ideas for the series I'm going to do next winter after we're done with our next one. So keep that in mind, think about it. I hope next session I'll have a little like link maybe at the bottom of the recipe so you guys can fill that out. And oh, while I'm talking about it, we are changing our, what's it called? Style? We're changing how you sign up for this class. So in the past, this class has opened up on the first of the month with the rest of our programming, and it gets a little bit overwhelming. You guys know, it's like buying concert tickets or something like that. And so we're in the effort to try and relieve that and let you guys have some more time to sign up for our normal programming and not have to like worry about this. We're going to open up registration a week before. So 1 week before on Thursday, not on Monday, we're going to open registration at 10 a.m. when we're open. So you guys can give us a call if you need to get in line right when we're open, or you know, you can do it yourselves. But we're changing when we register. We're hoping too that is going to be more people that can actually come. There were 4 or 5 people this week that didn't show up. Maybe they forgot about it, etc. Because it's been like a whole month. You know, it's usually towards the end of the month. So doing it the week before, we're hoping people will sign up who actually have that day free instead of who want to have that day free. So just keep in mind when you're like, why can't I register at the beginning of this month? It's because we changed the way that we're doing it. So registration will open, but it'll be the week before on that Thursday.
Does that include next week?
Yeah, next week we will not be open. Registration will not be open when it goes out. It'll be open, I think the week after. We're doing it, I think, the 3rd Thursday. So the second Thursday is when registration will open.
But it'll be on the newsletter.
Yeah, it'll say in the newsletter when registration opens. Correct. Yeah. We'll double check. This is a new thing we're just trying out. We've been thinking about different ways to like get people, you know, who maybe don't get a chance to come here, a chance to come here, and then also to make sure we don't have no-shows, because it's, you know, for me it's sad to have empty seats. It's okay, empty seats. I'm not, you know, they're fine, but I like to have people in those seats. It's for me. I love feeding people, so, and I always feel a little bit sad when people miss it. And there's tons of reasons to miss it, and you know, that's not really what we're going for. But I want somebody in that seat that's going to be able to eat, you know. So. All right, that's looking pretty good. This gravy is looking good. It's reduced itself a little bit. I'm going to thicken it here with some cornstarch. But first I'm going to take these potatoes off. I think they're good to go. I don't think I need this any... Oh yeah, I need this for the meatloaf. That's what I'm looking for. All right. Did you say? Oh, I thought you were asking a question. I was like, what? Where did I put that?
Looking at things that you need for your kids. And if this is your tuition, yeah, we use it.
All right. You've done a great job, Pan, of filling in. We got our mash. We got cream. I'm using light cream. You can use heavy cream if you want. Don't have to use cream. You can use milk. But we're going a little decadent for this dish, so we are creaming it. We're going old school. I'm using the whole thing, so it's okay. They stopped doing this with milk. I don't know. You guys probably had to deal with this a lot in school, trying to open milk like this. Even I did, but they stopped doing it pretty recently, and I gotta say, it feels cool. It's fun to do it. You know, I used to hate it when I was a kid. I was like, this is just stupid. Who designed this? This is horrible. Nobody would ever want to open milk like this. But I kind of like it. It feels like nostalgic. So we don't have a masher here, so I'm just using a really big, sturdy, flat spoon, something with a nice flat piece to mash with. But this is going to work just fine. I thought we had a masher, and I just couldn't find it today. We cleaned up the kitchen pretty recently, and I think it just went the way of you know, cleaning stuff. It's somewhere in this building, probably. Oh yeah. So I'm just mashing with this with the cream right now. Normally if I'm making mashed potatoes, there'd be butter in here as well. But the butter's in here. So. Oh yeah. Guys, this is gonna be really good. So I'm gonna get this most of the way mashed, and then I'm going to start putting my cabbage in there and just start stirring it. And as I stir it, that will mash it the rest of the way and also get that butter nice and well incorporated. And kind of the nice thing about potatoes, though, like when you cook them enough, like you don't really need a masher. Like the spoon will work just fine. They want to be mashed up. It's like they're just begging for it. They're like, mash me, please. And again, we do want this chunky. You know, we don't want super smooth mashed potatoes. So if there's a big chunk of potato in there, that's okay. All right, so I'm just gonna make a little well here in the center. Pour some of this cabbage in there. I want to make sure this is actually cooked enough before I go do something I can't undo. But it does look like it's cooked enough. So, all right, this was my onion spoon. A little crunchy, but that's what we want. We don't want it to be super soft. It's supposed to have some bite to it. And I'm coming back to that. I'm going to finish thickening this gravy, and then we'll be good to go. So I'm just going to make a little cornstarch slurry here. Probably about a tablespoon. Let's see, what do we got here? 1, 2, about 3 cups of liquid. So I'll do 2 tablespoons. We'll see how it looks. Just a little splash of water. Just enough to get the cornstarch moving. You don't want to add too much water in here because then you're kind of working against your end goal, which is to thicken it. But we do want it to be relatively thick. We want it. Man, I'm just really good at getting my shirt dirty today. You know what I'm going to do? I'm feeling decadent. I'm going to put a little bit of butter in here too. You guys might actually notice, and I'm just remembering right now on the recipe, it says 1 stick minus a tablespoon. Whoops. That was a tablespoon that was meant to go in this gravy to help emulsify it. So this is called mounting. When you put butter into a hot liquid like this, you want to stir the butter as it melts, and it'll sort of get emulsified into that liquid. It helps add a lot of richness. It will also help to thicken it a little bit. And for a soup like this that doesn't have a ton of fat in the first place, it'll give it some really good fat for our starch to bond to. So when I add a little bit more slurry in here, which I'm going to do in a second, it's going to thicken a lot better than it would before. But more important than anything else, it adds a really nice flavor and mouthfeel. And when you have this gravy, it's going to feel hearty and tasty. And that flavor is going to kind of come together. So 3 tablespoons I think was actually the correct amount. I'm just going to make a little extra too, just in case. Give this a stir. Not too shabby. Awesome. Let's go. Nice. So I think if I had blended the mushrooms in there, or sorry, the onions into there, instead of leaving them whole like this, it would have been a little bit thicker and I might not have needed as much slurry. But because I didn't, and because they're sort of chunky, it's basically just like liquid broth. So I did put the rest of that slurry in there. I'm going to let that just come to a boil and thicken up. I think that'll be perfect. All right, back to this. You are done, my friend. You've done a great service. So we're going to put about half of this in here, mix it up, and then try and shove the other half in there. We'll see how much we can get in. You're going to be surprised how much we can actually fit in this pot. It is crazy. Oh yeah. Perfect, make that nice well again. The well is important because it helps get this solid matter down to the bottom of the pot without me having to just fold it over and over again. So that really helps with the stirring, takes a lot of the strain off of my muscles, and also makes sure I don't spill everywhere, which I've been very good at already, so I don't need any more practice doing that. Alright, lovely. It smells absolutely divine. If anybody's lucky enough to get a full, like half of a potato in their dish, come see me. You've won tickets to the next Chef LeCook's. You can even cook with me if you want to. But I think I got them all. So you might not. There might not be any tickets out there. It's like the Willy Wonka golden ticket, but he didn't actually put any out there. Like, that wouldn't be very fun, would it? Alright, love it. We got it all in there. I knew we were gonna. What me worry. Perfect. Okay, awesome. Just get this stirred up. This is good to go. Got a nice boil on it. This lovely, who put this in here? Lovely ladle that I have now, which was not part of my my accoutrements not too long ago. That'll be nice for doing some gravy. Get this finished up, and then it's meatloaf time. Is anybody out there who doesn't want a part of this dish? Is anybody doesn't want gravy, doesn't want Colcannon, doesn't want meatloaf? We're going full bore and everything? All right, awesome. That's what I like to hear. It makes my life easy up here too. We even got space. We could put some more cabbage in there. Let's go. Not much space, but so anyway, so this is Colcannon. It doesn't classically have carrots in it, but I absolutely love carrots in it, so I always put them in there. They give it this really nice, like almost like yellow color, which I really like. It really kind of like sells the golden potato vibe. But you can usually it's just cabbage. You can put onions in there if you want. You can put anything you want in there, really. But cabbage and carrots tend to work the best, and are also kind of like, you know, culturally appropriate for sort of where this dish comes from and what it is. But mashed potatoes with stuff in it is not. Nobody owns that, so you can put anything you want in mashed potatoes. All right, cool. Let's put that to the side. Let's make myself some space here, and let's get our assembly line going. We're gonna unveil these meatloafs. I'm really, really hoping this thing's gonna look really beautiful. Let's see. Not too bad. Okay, so it didn't get super brown on the edges, but I can live with that. Oh, it tastes good. That's all that really matters. We'll see how it stays together. One of the problems with doing like them thin like this is they don't bind quite as well as you normally would. So we might run into some falling apart meatloaves, but that's okay. Oh my god, they smell, taste so good. The caraway came through really well. The rye is like very forward. This is gonna be a good meal. So let's go ahead and do 2 of these at a time. Perfect. Coming out good, which is nice. And then let's get a couple of bowls going. So let's see. We have 6. There's 2, 4, 6, 8, 14, 16, 18, 23. So if we have 6, 4 pieces, we'll cut them into 5 each. Cool. I'll give some for the staff as well. So 10 bowls,
when
yes.
I make meatloaf, I'm always envious the next day of people who can make the meatloaf sandwich.
Yes.
Mine doesn't.
Yeah.
Apart. I use the binder, but would it be, I like to cut my veggies large.
Yep, that's going to be a big factor in keeping them together. For me, when I was a kid, like I said, that like really fine ground breadcrumbs was what my dad always used, and because he loved meatloaf sandwiches, like his favorite thing. That's like why he made meatloaf, was to make sandwiches out of it. Okay, cool. So for him, that was what he was going for, and because of that, that was kind of where we would end up. And so it would be a lot more together. You can see there's bits here that aren't as well together. We're gonna see once I cut it how well it stays together, but I have a feeling it's gonna do a pretty good job of staying together. Yeah, the veggies are usually like no matter what you can do, you can't ever get the inside of an onion to bond to something. You know, so if there's an onion in the way, it's gonna make a hole. Like that was a piece of bread there that fell off on the bottom. You know.
But if they're small pieces, the chances of that.
Yeah, are much lower, exactly. And then for meatloaf sandwich as well, like waiting till it gets cold is going to be big. When things are cold, they tend to bind a lot better. I've been making this potato pie that I really like, which is like thin sliced potatoes layered and baked in like a springform pan. And that, like, you literally can't eat it the day you make it. You need to cool it and cut it, and it's actually pretty good cold. So I really been liking that. But it's crazy. Like, you try and cut it the day of, and it just like slides everywhere. But the next day, it's like perfectly solid. It's amazing. All right, let's see. Looking good.
Next month, your last one.
Next month will be the last until summer. Yes. This is okay binding, not too bad. Hope you guys are hungry. These are going to be fairly big pieces of meatloaf. So.
Dinner.
Yeah. Wait, did I count wrong? What's happening here? Oh, I see. I didn't put one on that one. All right, so those of you in the back, as per usual, back eats first. Feel free to make your way up. I'm going to start putting some gravy on these, and you can grab and go.
Can I get this without gravy? Oh,
Yeah, of course.
Sorry, thanks.
Yummo, yummo. Thanks, Chris.
Of course.
Do you have aluminum foil for your mom?
Oh, yeah. I'll make her one and make sure you get it.
Okay.
Make her one of the last ones. All right, 10 more.
Hi, Skip. Hi, how are you? Good, thanks.
All right, this turned out pretty good. I'm not super excited at how ugly it is, but that's fine. It's meatloaf. It kind of works, honestly. You know, Colcannon is designed to be sort of a nitty-gritty size, so.
Comfort food.
Yeah, exactly. Comfort food should be a little bit ugly, you know?
That's right.
It makes you feel better, you know? You're like, man, I'm so pretty compared to this food.
What does Colcannon mean?
It's just like the name for the dish. So it's classically butter, potatoes, and cabbage, braised cabbage. But you can put British. It's Irish. Well, I think it's Irish. I don't want to speak. It's in that area, you know. Yeah. But I'm pretty sure it's an Irish dish. But it could be one of those like American Irish sort of things that's not actually, you know, happening. It is Irish. Good. Okay, I thought so, but I've been doing my best not to say things as fact that I haven't actually looked at myself. You know, that feels like a good librarian tendency to try and fact check.
Check fact. I had some Colcannon last week, made with sweet potato.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds great.
It was good, and sweet potato and Swiss chard.
Oh,
It
nice.
was really good. And cabbage.
Yes. That sounds great. Yeah. See, that's the thing. You can, of course, yeah. You can pretty much put any green in there that you want. Was just being told about Colcannon with sweet potatoes and chard instead of cabbage. So that really kind of lays in that it can be anything. Starch and greens. That's the trick, you know. Hopefully it's good. I actually forgot to try the potatoes, but the cabbage was good, so I figured they were probably pretty good too. Plenty for staff too, which is good. They literally threatened me this week. They're like, if there's not something left over, we're coming for you. Meatloaf's staying together pretty good too, which is nice. It doesn't look like it's going to, but it does. It's like it's not going anywhere. Boop. All right, onion gravy time. I'm really excited about this one. I might be eating an entire bowl for myself as well. Oh no, get in there. Perfect.
It's fabulous. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for coming. All right. Let's do 5 more. Yeah. I made this is a big meal. It worked out. I love a good hearty meal. course.
This looks like
So happy to be able to provide. It's one of my favorite things in the world.
eating.
Eating and feeding people. Usually happens at the same time too, which is the best. All right. Thank you for your patience.
Oh, it smells wonderful.
Should taste pretty dang good too. The one bit I had of the meatloaf was incredibly pleasing. So.
Oh, oops.
Did okay?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Oh,
All
great.
right, awesome. Beautiful. Everybody got some. Looks like everybody's nice and quiet, which is exactly what I like to hear after I serve.
It's delicious.
Oh, good. All right, actually, I should probably grab a fork too and just make sure
Oh, yeah.
I'll get that one.
we did okay. Okay.
It tastes like a Reuban.
I'm really excited about that. I think the only thing that could really fully bring it home would be like a little bit of Russian dressing or something like that. But like I said earlier, it doesn't always work. It doesn't not work, but
You have some for the staff?
oh yeah, got
That's
plenty.
good. They'll
Got a whole
love it.
meatloaf for them. So
Okay, thanks a lot.
yeah, of course. Thank you for coming, guys. Thank you all for coming to another Chef Look Cooks. We've got one more next month. Let me take a quick look at my calendar just to make sure. Don't quote me on this because we sometimes do change things, but I think it's going to be a little bit earlier next month. Come on. I believe it's the 15th. So mark your calendars. And again, registrations will open the week before on the 8th, not on the 1st. So just keep that in mind. It'll be at 10 a.m. in the morning, and it'll be first come, first serve like always, but we're just opening it the week before just to make sure. So yeah, keep that in mind. This will get posted up on YouTube tomorrow. I'll put it up on the Edgartown Library YouTube if you want to see any of the old shows. They're all up there as well. But otherwise, thank you guys for coming. Really excited to see you all, and I hope to see some of you, or maybe all of you, next month as well. Bye, guys.